Hey guys, and welcome back to another Ask Me Anything. My name is Pejman Kadimi, author of Third Circle Theory and founder of Entourage.com. Today, we're going to be talking about breaking out of your comfort zone. And one of the most important parts of being able to win in business is to be able to completely graduate from this fear of always living within comfort. You see, growing up, I was always uncomfortable, and even when I wasn't, I always found ways to make myself more uncomfortable in order to feel like I have my ass against the wall every day. So let me give you a perfect example of why this matters. When you think about when you're at the gym, I'm going to use the gym example because many people have gone to the gym and have at least attempted to bench something, once or twice, and have understood that the more weight you put on, the harder it gets. What's really interesting though is if at the gym you can bench typically 100 pounds, if you have a spotter on top of you, right, your comfort zone is there, you typically are able to bench less than when you're there and your life is at stake, where if you drop the bar you would hurt yourself. So therefore, without a spotter, when your ass is against the wall, you typically tend to bench more. The same can be said when you're hanging off a cliff and your life is at stake. You're going to be able to pull yourself up 3 times your body weight, versus if you're at the gym simply recreationally just lifting weights. So the idea is to be able to put your mind or your state of mind in a place where you're constantly faced with fighting this idea of being comfortable. And so I'm going to give you a few tips today, like 3 to be exact, on ways you can break out of your comfort zone every day in your day-to-day life to actually be able to get further in your business life later on, once you're ready to either take on entrepreneurship or business, even if that's today. So some of the basics that you need to consider is that everything that comes with comfort is the opposite of fear. So in other words, when we are comfortable, we're not afraid. When we're uncomfortable, we're typically afraid, meaning that we haven't ventured down that path, we don't understand the consequences of going down that road. I'll give you a good example. Let's say you wanted to skydive, and you're afraid of heights, then obviously your comfort zone is to not skydive, right? Is to not be in high areas. So the way you would overcome that is to fight by attacking that fear dead on. And what I mean by that is you look for the fears you have in life, such as that is fear of heights, fear of interacting with people, fear of socializing with people, and you fight those fears by doing the exact activities that are gonna get you to face those and practice dealing with those fears. If it's approaching women, let's assume that you're afraid of approaching women of the opposite sex because obviously you're afraid of rejection. So your comfort zone is obviously to be at the bar by yourself and not to interact with women. Your comfort zone is to actually stay and not create interactions because you have a better time not being rejected. Reality though is you need to get over that, because if you don't, you'll never actually be able to socialize. So the way you overcome that is by practicing. And one of the best advices I've given some of my friends when they've said they've been socially awkward around women is you have to practice the interaction itself. And what I mean by that is you shouldn't have a goal to actually go up and get a phone number. Instead, practice the art of speaking to people, regardless that you're buying a piece of gum at the gas station and a woman is the one around the counter, that you're getting a haircut. As long as the person that you would typically be intimidated with is someone you can continuously create interactions with, the practice is what's going to enable you to get over that fear of actually eventually creating conversation and leading conversation towards actually creating relationships. So the key part there is to fight the fear dead on by creating practice rounds for yourself. Small baby steps you can take so that you can eventually get to a place where the fear is no longer fear, because the fear is not part of your comfort zone and you're no longer afraid of the relationships and conversations you create. So that's my first, most important step I give people when they're talking about breaking out of their comfort zone. The second thing I would tell you that you need to be very aware of when you're thinking about comfort is knowing yourself. Know your limitations, and then find ways you can push the limitation just a little bit further every time. Again, I'm going to go back to the fitness example because this is gradually how we grow muscle. We go to the gym and we don't start benching 600 pounds at once. We start gradually training your body up so that it can eventually break the plateaus we create and move further. But reality is we need to learn to do the same things with our minds. So in other words, we need to get our minds to believe we can do something and then slowly earn steps towards getting to that goal. And so I think the most important part is to create stepping stones to the success or to the lack of comfort that we seek to erase from our life, and to create baby steps to getting out of the comfort zone. So in other words, instead of looking at here's comfort zone and here's fear zone, how do I actually bridge that gap in one step? Look at how do I get closer and closer to overcoming fear. And so it's very important that you understand that when you're looking for steps, you're not always thinking about jumping like from, let's say you're afraid. I'll give you a perfect example. Let's talk about finance for a second here in this step. Let's say you wanted to talk about investing in the stock market, but you're afraid of losing money. So obviously being not investing in the stock market is your comfort zone, but then investing in general is going to be where your lack of comfort is and the fear kicks in. So the goal is not to get in the investment game and throw 100 grand there and try your best, and if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. The point is to start maybe with $5,000 and then learn the concepts, and then slowly get up to 10, slowly get up to 20, slowly get up to 30, and eventually get into this comfort zone where you're like, I wanted to invest 100,000 and I'm comfortable doing it because I now understand, you know, the process itself throughout time, and it's now, the fear is now the comfort zone, and then you can continue pushing that outwards. So it's really important to again understand that, you know, in our first step we talked about just the idea of creating practice rounds. The second step is taking baby steps outwards towards the fear, so that the fear now molds in with the comfort zone and it all becomes one giant place for you to be in. Then the third thing I'll leave you with, which is really important to the idea of business in general, is that when you talk about what is comfortable and what is uncomfortable and what is fear-driven, especially around the idea of entrepreneurship and business, everything in entrepreneurship is uncomfortable. Because remember, in business, you're following a process, an A to Z process to becoming profitable. However, in entrepreneurship, you're starting something new, something no one's been down that road before. So no one knows what you're about to encounter. And the idea is that the way we overcome the fear of the unknown and create a lot of comfort for ourselves when we are most uncomfortable is the ability to keep an open mind and the ability to understand that we're ventured down something that nobody understands, nor do we. And so we need to be able to know ourselves enough to let go of limitations. And the way this third step that's really important is understanding your inner limitations and understanding that they're only limitations because of your own perspective, and they're not a reality. And so to break out of your comfort zone in this, especially in business, it's to understand that the only reason your comfort zone is there is because you've set it there. So understand that you've set those perimeters, and that those perimeters are only set because of your perspective, and that anyone else outwards that's looking from the outside in can see that those limitations are clearly self-made. So I highly recommend that all of you take these 3 basic steps into consideration when either starting a business or attempting to prepare yourself to break out of your comfort zone so you can eventually start a business. So I hope you found this Ask Me Anything useful, and it's going to help you break out of your comfort zone, and we'll catch you next week in another Ask Me Anything. Today, we're more going to have a philosophical, I guess, conversation regarding how hard business really is, and from the, I would say, from the perspective of others.